Hi, I'm Linda from Singapore. Thank you so much for listening in. I'll be speaking on driving CI/CD adoption for distributed in-source and outsourced team today. How this talk will flow is that I'll start with the background and drivers, where I'll provide the context so they can better understand the rationale behind the decision and the actions that we took. I'll then move on to planning execution, where I'll cover the barriers that we have identified and how we've tried to overcome them. I'll then end off with our challenges and next step, where I'll talk about the challenges that we still face and what we plan to do in the year ahead. Overall, I do not believe that there's any silver bullet here, as every organization has its own unique context and issues. However, what I'm hoping for is that whatever I shared here today will give you more ideas of what you can consider doing and what you can consider not doing in your organization as you're planning for, or if you're adopting CI/CD in your organization. Okay, now let me start with the background and drivers. So Govtech is 2,000 plus people strong. I'm part of the Govtech Services Group, which forward deploy around 1,500 officers to be integral part of 50 over government agencies, where they will digitally transform and manage IT systems for the agency business so as to deliver value to citizen, business, and public officers. I'm not one of those who are forward deployed to the agencies. I'm based at the headquarters as part of the Cluster and Technology Management Office, or CTMO. We're responsible for 3 key areas. One key area is to promote secure app development practices. And another area which I lead is to drive CI/CD and test automation among 50 plus agencies. So these are some of the government agencies that we work with, including Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health, and the National Environment Agency. I joined Govtech around 3+ years back. So this was the landscape then through my lens. Okay, the systems are distributed across agencies, mostly outsourced. So the agencies are dependent on their vendors and their contractors, on their competencies to manage these systems. It was policies and compliance driven. So it was to ensure that the system is compliant is a top priority and major focus. There was also internet surfing separation, where the workstations that issued to the government officers to access the government enterprise network does not have internet access. So in order to access the internet, they will require another workstation that have internet accessibility. So this brings another level of dimension to when you design a platform which can be accessible to both the government officers as well as their vendors and contractors. The systems are mostly on-premise, hosted in various government data centers in Singapore. Back then, there was this rise of Agile, where Agile was increasingly advocated to deliver value faster to our citizens, business, and government officers. And there was also this push to move to cloud, to take advantage of the benefits that cloud can bring, such as scalability and cost. As I mentioned earlier, most of the systems are outsourced, and there were challenges with outsourced app development. Some of the challenges that I mentioned here may also apply to in-house app development. So firstly, we see potential lack of control on vendors' development environment. By vendor development environment, I'm referring to the environment that you develop, build, and test your system. So this environment may be on-premise or maybe on cloud. Is usually out to the vendor to instill control in this environment. The agency project team may not have access to this environment, so they cannot verify the controls that are in place. So if there are lack of technical controls, it can lead to potential issues such as, for example, source code repository being unintentionally public, the build server being compromised or unpatched, or ad hoc testing. So some of the issues that I mentioned here are not new. Similar issues have been reported for various companies over the world in the past few years. There are also varying tools and development testing practices. It can be up to the development team to decide what tools they want to use and what practices that they want to adopt. So it can be challenging for the agency project team to know what to expect and how to instill governance. There can be no ownership over the source code. So this is really dependent on the contract terms. And if there's no ownership over the source code, there can be issues such as, for example, how do you switch vendor if you don't have the source code? Or what if the lost code is lost because there was no proper management of the source code? There have also been reports of poor application quality during UAT. So due to the varying tools and development testing practices, there can be inadequate or insufficient testing before UAT, leading to a lot of issues being reported only after the system is deployed to UAT. So given these challenges, we see a strong need for a shift in software development practices. We want to perform QA and security testing early and frequently during software development. We want to shift left and automate testing so that we can get early feedback. We want to standardize CI/CD toolchain with strong bias towards automation. A standardized CI/CD toolchain will make it possible to prescribe practices to improve visibility and also to provide targeted training. We also want to take control of the software delivery pipeline. Okay, owning the software delivery pipeline will make it possible to bake in technical controls and also to allow visibility into the software delivery pipelines. So we strongly encourage the adoption of CI/CD to strengthen technical control and to improve app quality, security, and delivery velocity. So the CI/CD toolchain will be owned by the government and hosted in an environment owned by the government on commercial cloud. The project team, including the outsourced developer, will access this toolchain to set out the software delivery pipeline and will include both quality and security testing in this pipeline. The agency project team will have access to this software delivery pipeline, so they will have early visibility of potential app quality or security issues. I hope that what I shared earlier will have given you some better idea of what was the context and why we were advocating for the adoption of CI/CD. I'll now move on to planning and execution. So implementing CI/CD is not the norm, and changing norm is never easy, especially in a bureaucratic environment. So we have to encourage, motivate people to want to adopt, to implement CI/CD. We have to show them how CI/CD can help to address current pain points and bring values. For example, we start with targeting those project teams who are having issues managing their vendors. We also have to show how CI/CD can help to comply with existing and future policy. And this helps because, as mentioned earlier, this is actually a very policies and compliance-driven culture. I also mentioned earlier that there was this push to move to adopt Agile and to move to cloud. So one Agile best practice is to adopt CI/CD, as automation is key to the Agile. Automation is key to achieving the agility required from sprint to sprint. And with cloud migration, the agencies will anyway have to engage the development team to move the system to cloud. So as part of the migration effort, we encourage the agency to also adopt CI/CD. So basically, we piggyback on Agile transformation and cloud migration to drive the CI/CD adoption. However, the key to success is actually showing the above to management and getting their support and buy-in to join KPI. Without management support in a bureaucratic environment, it would have been very challenging to get people to pay attention to us. Obviously, we also have to continue to update management on progress, results, and plans to keep the ball rolling and to maintain their support. Okay, since we are pushing for the adoption of CI/CD, we also have to identify the CI/CD platform. And there are many options out there. Okay, one option is to build your own, which brings with it a whole series of questions. Okay, where will it be hosted? Will it be hosted on-premise? Will it be hosted on commercial cloud or government commercial cloud? What would the architecture be like? And will it be compliant to policy? Who will build it? Will it be your development team, in-house development team? Do they have the bandwidth to do so? Will it be the same vendor that's developing your applications? And do they have the skill set to build such a platform? Or will it be a separate vendor? Okay, will it be shared to reap economies of scale? Will you share it across multiple projects in the same agencies? Will you share it across multiple agencies? And if you're going to share this platform, how do you ensure proper segregation between the different projects? After you have set up the platform, you will still have to patch, update, maintain the platform, as well as to troubleshoot any issues that is reported. So who will actually do this piece of work? And how much will it cost? There is the set out cost. There can also be professional services costs, the licensing cost if you are using proprietary software or tooling, the hosting cost, as well as the maintenance cost. One very popular option is to use managed service. So in the context of Singapore government, one question that we have to ask is that, are they available in Singapore? Depending on the system classification, the data may be required to be hosted in Singapore. So one very popular managed service is Azure Devops. So Azure Devops is a global service. Unfortunately, they do not have the option to host the data in Singapore, so which makes it not a possible option for certain system classification. Okay, what do they provide? Cloud service providers such as Azure, Google Cloud, AWS do provide source code repositories, pipeline orchestrator, build agents, and deployment orchestrator. The security testing services are usually provided out of the marketplace, and these services may actually not be hosted in Singapore. Okay, which boils back to the first question, are they available in Singapore? And how will they be accessed? Okay, can this platform be accessed by both the government officials who are using their government issued workstation, as well as their suppliers and contractors who are using internet accessible laptop, but without access to the government enterprise network? So one option that's available to the Singapore government agency is the Singapore government tech stack. Okay, the Singapore government tech stack is a government-owned platform to provide a set of reusable components to streamline application development. This is to lower cost of development of digital services through centrally handled common services with better economies of scale and reduced duplication. Technical requirements are also baked in to provide baseline compliance to improve quality and security. Such a platform will also reduce the need for agencies to set up extensive digital infrastructure, thereby improving speed and productivity. As you may have already noticed, part of the tech stack includes a tool chain that enables CI/CD. So this tool chain, this centralized CI/CD platform is actually codenamed ShipHeads. Okay, so ShipHeads is a multi-tenanted software as a service hosted on government commercial cloud. The tools have already been set up and maintained by a central Govtech team. The agencies simply have to subscribe and use the tools. They do not have to set up similar tools back in their own environment. So this platform comes with many different types of tools. There is a source code repository, which is Bitbucket. This comes with a plugin to scan for hard-coded secret. For orchestrators, we have Bamboo and Zebia Lab. They also come with agents that you can use to execute pipeline tasks. For static code scan, we have Fortify and SonarQube to analyze the source code for vulnerabilities and code smell. So Fortify more for security vulnerabilities, SonarQube more for code smell. For software composition analysis, there is Nexus IQ, which is used to identify vulnerable open source libraries. Nexus IQ is also used to track bill of material and also to continuously monitor for new vulnerabilities being reported for existing open source library used in the production environment. For dynamic application security testing, we have Fortify Web Inspect, which can be used to scan the web application for security vulnerabilities. For automated testing, in particular, we have a dedicated mobile device farm, which is hosted in Singapore for government use. For container image scanning, we have Twistlock, which can be used to scan the container images for potential security vulnerabilities and possible violation of best practices. For artifact repository, we have Nexus Repository, which can be used to host artifact as well as proprietary libraries. For documentation, we have Confluence, which is a wiki-based tool, and we also have Jira software to manage the projects and tickets. So setting our platform is not just about hosting and running the tools. We have a very close relationship with the platform team, and we work with them closely to meet the services demand, the agency demands and requirements. For example, ensuring that the platform can meet the upcoming new load, ensuring that the new projects can seamlessly onboard the platform, making sure that the platform can support both outsourced and in-house teams, and also making sure that the roles provided on the platform can map back to the roles and responsibility of a typical project team. So as CICD was not the norm back then, there's definitely knowledge gap. We had to identify the different stakeholders, understand their knowledge, general concerns and level of understanding, and applying different strategies to close knowledge gaps and secure buy-in. Our stakeholders include different parties from CIOs to in-house and outsourced developers. We also make use of different mediums. We have websites to channel, to provide general knowledge and documentations. We have briefings to help prepare the agency project teams and their vendors and contractors for onboarding the platform. We also have hands-on training to help to deepen knowledge. What we found critical is building intimate understanding of the ground through having team members who are deployed to agencies or have worked as vendors before, and getting hands dirty by working directly with the different stakeholders to adopt and implement CI/CD. We have found this very critical in helping us to identify the different stakeholders, understanding where the gaps are, and also how to channel the required information to the project team so that they can adopt and implement CI/CD accordingly. So this is an example of closing knowledge gap for the agency project manager and business analyst. So some common questions that they have raised include like, what is CI/CD? How much do I need to budget for? How do I onboard shipment heads? So to address such knowledge gap, we have an intranet website providing CI/CD related information for different project stages, from project initiation, budget estimation, funding approval, preparing tender, onboarding shipment heads to implementing CI/CD. As most of these systems are outsourced, the agency project team often have to work with their suppliers and contractors to implement CI/CD for their systems. And these suppliers and contractors may not have access to the intranet website. So we also provide a public website that has information about shipment heads, a subscription model, tools, and roadmap. We also have separate regular onboarding briefing for PA and BA and their vendors so that they can gain some basic knowledge of shipment heads, where to find the required information, and how to prepare for onboarding the platform. For trainings, there are curated hands-on foundation training that is specific to the shipment heads platform and also has government context. This is to ensure that the trainees will gain the relevant knowledge from the training and to be able to apply the knowledge directly in their project. Okay, so as shipment heads is a standardized and centralized CI/CD platform, it makes it possible to develop reusable templates and modules. So these reusable templates and modules have helped to reduce duplication and cost. You also have to reduce you also have to improve the speed of adopting and implementing CI/CD. What we have also seen is that you also have to reduce the fear of the unknown to provide some assurance and to show that it can be done. So to help the project team to implement CI/CD pipelines on shipment heads, we have provided pipeline templates, test automation framework starter kit, as well as reusable scripts to perform CI/CD tasks. To help the project team to prepare for onboarding shipment heads, we also have templates to help them to get the required funding to implement CI/CD for their system, and also to require the vendor to implement CI/CD as per contract terms. So we have to prioritize by identifying the most common use case and building in the required control and best practices into the reusable templates and modules. Okay, what we have observed is that if templates were used, the likelihood of continuing with the baked-in best practices is actually very high. So this is the adoption status as of March 2021. We have had 28 agencies with at least one system using shipment heads. And in total, we have 122 systems that are using the platform. So far, we have 43 agencies with at least one staff that has undergone the training, and 306 staff in total who have been trained in CI/CD. Okay, now let me move on to challenges and next step. Okay, so to recap, shipment heads is a multi-tenanted software as a service hosted in cloud. As a result of this operating model, there are limitations. Okay, so for example, to access shipment heads, you require internet connectivity. So it cannot be accessed from the government enterprise network. Due to classification reason, it also cannot be used for on-premise systems, so it can only be used for cloud systems. While shipment heads is a prescriptive model where the tools are specifically curated to be included in the platform, there are limited choices for each tool type. So this can make it difficult to find resources who are skilled in the specific tools, especially if these tools are not widely available. And it can also be less appealing to developers if the developers have preference of what tools that they want to use. To give an example, based on feedback, Bamboo is not a very popular tool among the developers, so we receive quite a lot of complaints about it. Okay, there are also concentration risk. As this is a multi-tenanted model, if the platform goes down, all the subscribers will be affected. There can also be access control related kind of issues where one subscriber can intentionally or unintentionally access the data of another subscriber. So another challenge that we observe is that as the number of tools increase, there's also a higher chance of misconfiguration. As of now, there are already at least 14 tools and more to be added as the platform evolves. And configuration can include many types such as permissions, policies, features, scan rules, and quality gate. So some common misconfiguration that we have seen so far include, for example, project and repository being unintentionally public, user account being given too many permissions or not following the principle of least privilege, or lacks of disabled policies are used in the security testing tools. So with so many tools, it can become difficult to track and to manage the configuration for every single tool, especially as the number of projects that a person have to manage increase. One other challenge that we observe is knowing what or how to monitor and to measure quality, security, and delivery. Okay, there are many tools here, and each tool provides lots of information. Some of this information can be queried via API, while some of the information are locked within the tool-specific data store. It can be difficult to collate data from the various tools and then to make sense of the data in order to make decision. So as a result of this challenge, it is common to not measure or monitor until required, such as when you need to report to management or to manually collate the metrics, which can be effort intensive and error prone, and to not use the metrics to improve delivery efficiency and effectiveness. And because measuring and monitoring are not in mind, the resources that are created are not organized in a consistent manner that make it easier to collate, sanitize, and analyze the data. Okay, so we have been very focused on getting the agency to start adopting CI/CD. We want to go beyond by adding visibility to the software delivery pipelines and enabling the project teams to be able to make use of the data that they have to make decisions. So as I quote from the State of Software Delivery Management Report 2020, software delivery is now a data-driven activity, and data needed by software practitioner, by the leadership executive should be accurate and freely accessible to allow them to more easily do their jobs and make data-driven decisions. Okay, so this has also helped to drive us on what we want to do going ahead. So for the year ahead, we are looking at organizing and providing more documentation and training to accelerate uplifting of different stakeholders. We are working with IT vendors to upskill relevant competencies and improve implementation time. As mentioned earlier, as of now, the platform does not support on-premise systems, so we are looking at how we can enable on-premise systems to adopt CI/CD. We also want to enable the project team to identify potential tools misconfiguration through the use of script or tool. And we want to enable the agencies to monitor and measure application quality, security, and delivery by providing them with a means to collate, sanitize, analyze, and present the data. So So some of the steps that we are talking about here are only made possible because Ship and Hats is a centralized and standardized platform. So the goal over here is to increase coverage and to provide visibility into the software delivery pipelines. For further reference, you can take a look at some of the links that are provided here. So this comes to the end of my talk. Thank you so much again for listening in, and have a good day.